how to get started making 3D files and how to take stuff and then maybe print. And tonight we're going to talk a lot about scanning. So you don't necessarily need to know how to design a part, but if you can scan a part and make a file from it, bam, you have something you can use for a print. So Toby will kind of talk about kind of that kind of stuff and how that happens, how it works, and we should be able to be scanning someone tonight. So that should be really cool too. So yeah, it should be really awesome. So yeah, let's go and get started. So tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about some news events that happened in the past month that have been pretty exciting. And then kind of teach you guys a little bit about the company that's giving away the structure sensor tonight. Kind of give you a little background about their story, what they do. And thanks for allowing us to give away a sensor. It was pretty awesome. We're going to kind of go into, Toby's going to show the really cool stuff, which is demoing all these different cool things that he has, so it's going to be pretty awesome. And then do a giveaway. And then also, next month, November 2nd, Peter will be doing a presentation on some stuff that he's doing for 3D printing. That should be really cool, should be really exciting. So the information that meetup will be posted later this week, and it'll be at 7 o'clock here in KnoxMakers. So it's really great. Come out for that. So a couple big things happened. One of them was that Maker Summit happened 2 weeks ago. And so some people here at KnoxMakers were a part of that, and they got to see a lot of the cool things that had happened. But basically, it was a mission by Knoxville to bring in all the people who make things together. So a lot of local shops and everything else that work downtown and Old City and make Knoxville this really, really cool place. As well as Etsy declaring Knoxville a Maker City and all these other great things that kind of help make the maker community more visible in Knoxville and outside of Knoxville as well. So that's really neat. Right now they're in the process of basically pulling together all the different details from what happened that day, and they'll be putting out a report here soon and kind of the next steps of kind of collaborations that we'll do with that, which is really great. Which also leads me to a segue that I've done 3 months so far. We have this group called Knox Devs in July of last year, and it started with like 4 people on a Slack group, and it's now over 500. Anyway, we have a 3D printing channel that we haven't really got a chance to really get used a lot. And anyway, we have it set up to use it. So it's a really opportunity if you're interested getting to take some of these conversations we have tonight, take it offline, other spots, really great. There's also a Facebook group for Knoxville 3D printers. You can look them up, they're added as well. So 2 great resources to kind of carry on the conversation after our meetups, so that's kind of what we're hoping to do. Okay, so some of the fun stuff. So tonight we'll talk about some 3D scanning, which is really cool technology. There's a lot of different ways to do it. And Toby's going to show us some of those. But basically what you're doing is you're just analyzing shape, texture, or other attributes of an environment. It can be a part, it could be a scene, it could be a room. There's a lot of different opportunities to scanning and the realm that you're trying to scan. So overall, it's pretty generalized. And so you kind of have these couple different ways to scan. One of the first things that we used to do in scanning was metrology. Doing contact, actually measuring points on a shape to figure out dimensions and tolerances. We still do that. There's a lot of great scanners out there that do that now that have more high precision. There's a lot of non-contact. So tonight we're going to show a lot of optical ways to basically get information on texture and shape. But there's also people who actually do sound and other types of ways as well, echolocation, to also put together a scene or a map. You've probably seen in the medical industry, but they also use this in larger industries as well, is CT scanning. So going in and actually taking a tomography of the entire area and actually sending different paths of light through and actually getting a whole shape. So it's pretty cool. MRI, same thing. Instead of this case, you're actually using a magnet and you're resonating and you're actually getting in internal details. So when you break a knee, you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like inside and figure out if it's good or not. And then there's also some other options as well. They're really cool. So, Occipital, this great company that decided a couple weeks ago that, hey, this small meetup in Knoxville seemed really cool and they're going to talk about scanning. Let's give them something. So, what's cool is they actually started as a Kickstarter in 2013. And they raised, and this is 3 years ago, raised $1.3 million in a span of 30 days with only 3,500 backers, which is really cool. So what you could do was basically you get a couple different rewards, and you could buy one of their sensors before it was going to be made and shipped. So that's really cool. If you were like myself, who didn't have a lot of money to spare to get a sensor at the time, I said, that shirt looks pretty cool. So got this shirt, which was nice. It was like a nice breakout of the sensor itself. You can kind of see the different parts that go into it. And I think it was pretty cool. That was pretty neat. So for me, it's kind of cool to see that a campaign that I backed like 3 years ago for like 25 bucks. It's not coming back and doing some really cool things. And carrying on what we started with, which is really neat. So basically, I'll show you this video, won't be any sound, but basically you kind of see this is kind of what the structure sensor looks like. So you have these multiple different parts that go into it. Here they're showing the battery, the board, and other things. But basically kind of going into it, they're looking at kind of when they were first designing the part, like, all right, how do we build a sensor that people will be able to use? So one of the first things they did was think about, all right, can we make it so that all the electronics on the other things deal with an app rather than buttons or physical things acting on the sensor? And so basically you connect with what looks basically like a USB connection through a lightning cable to an iPad, and you can basically use the sensor in conjunction with your device. So basically how it works, I'm going to kind of show a little bit, and I'll have these slides posted online afterwards so you can listen to the sound and audio for it. But basically what it does is it actually uses infrared, and it actually shoots infrared in conjunction with your iPad's camera to actually basically use the infrared to figure out kind of the shape, and then the iPad's camera actually provides the texture and the color and that kind of thing to it. So it's really kind of neat. And so they're showing here that they have this 65 millimeters between both the infrared emitters, and that basically allows them to have a known distance to then compare to it. And so they're showing here basically how they shoot out beam of light, and they can use that to then feed back in. The other neat thing about it is it has this battery that obviously powers the sensor, and it can actually be powered without being on the iPad for a little while. And you can actually charge the iPad a little bit too, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, anyway, it's a really neat sensor. They retail for $379, but tonight one of you will win one, so it'll be pretty cool. Anyway, they make a bracket for the iPad, and that's kind of the first set with. The biggest reason they went with iPad was just the fact that it was a set dimension, and they knew what the hardware would be. What's cool though is that you can actually, with what will also be given away with too, is a hacker cable that you can actually use with any device. So if you have an Android tablet that supports on the go, you can actually, there's a developer community out there that can actually help you get started potentially using it. You've done a host of other things. You can see here with the Android tablet. People do stuff with Mac and PC, as well as special builds. There was a guy who had a video of him, and he basically had a NVIDIA GPU and was starting a project with the sensor. So it's pretty cool. They have a really good developers portal, which I'll talk about next. That kind of feeds into some of the stuff they're looking at doing. So basically 3 years have gone by. They successfully had a Kickstarter, and they turned a Kickstarter into a real company and selling things. So one of the cool things they're trying to do is they're trying to build on what they provided so far. So they have an app, a couple apps out there you can kind of use with your iPad or other stuff. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it so that people who are interested in hacking the device and taking it and doing something new with it. That's kind of what I'm looking for. So they have an SDK they released about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I believe. And they also have this portal they set up with forums and everything else to kind of build stuff with. So it's really kind of neat. Obviously they have on there. So videos that people have put out of stuff that they've been working on. So augmented reality, virtual reality. There's people who've been interested in doing some of that, which is one of the things they first talked about on Kickstarter 3 years ago, which is kind of cool. And this is also how they've been able to help add functionality to the device. So again, originally works for iPads, and that's kind of what they first started with. But you can easily work on it with other things as well, which is really kind of neat. So yeah, so you can kind of see here, basically the whole portal right here with the structure, the forums, and you can kind of start seeing some of the videos that people have. So people done some like instant mapping type projects indoors. People done some augmented reality, like I said, kind of having games set up inside, which is kind of neat. And some other things as well. So it's really neat. They're keeping to build on it, so it's something that you might be interested in looking at the project with that. So, yeah. So finally, last boring piece of information I'll get before Toby takes it over is that part of the giveaway as well is that I also given away a license to the software that they make called Kinect. Kinect has a free version and a pro version. We're giving away the pro version, but the free version you can still do a lot of things we'll talk about here. Basically, what it allows you to do is, let's say you have your data that you scan. Let's say you started with an iPad. And you have this data. You can do some things with it on the iPad. You can then transfer that model over and work on your desktop and basically modify, kind of look at it, and then maybe send it to another program to finalize and edit. And say you're going to send it to a slicer and then start printing on a printer here or elsewhere. But one of the cool things about Kinect Pro that you'll get when you get this is they actually allow you to directly upload to Shapeways straight from software. So basically you scan, you get the file, you think it looks pretty good, and then you can ship it straight to Shapeways and then get it printed for you in the material that you choose depending on what you're trying to do, which is kind of neat. So the biggest thing too is that it works with a variety of formats. Toby uses software a lot more, and we'll kind of talk a little bit about some of those things as well if you're interested. And like I said, talk about direct export to Shapeways. So in here I have like a cool teaser that you can see when I upload the slides if you're interested. So. All right, so that was kind of an intro to kind of what Occipital is, kind of some of the backgrounds of scanning. But I want to turn it over to Toby, who's going to talk about some of the cool stuff, which is actually showing you what's all done.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off and actually have a sensor scanner attached to my iPad right now. As you can see, it actually is scanning, and right now I've got it replicating on the computer right now as well. So I'm going to actually demo scanning with an iPad with Kinect tonight. I'm actually going to scan with an Xbox 360 on the turntable that I've got here as well. So that way you can see different ways that depth scanners can actually scan. There's practically two different ways of doing it. It's either A, walking around the object and actually making a model of it, or B, have the model turn around so you can just stay in one spot. I do not have any slides, and I'm not actually projecting up there, so if anybody needs to move up closer to the screen, feel free to do that. So that way I can see better. And I will actually also demo the room scanning as well, so I'll actually walk in the middle of the room and do the room scan on the iPad by itself. You can see it capturing live data on the iPad, and I know that's a small screen to actually look at, so I'll walk out in the middle of the room, kind of turn around and do a quick scan for that. So the first thing I've got is I've got an uplink going through the wireless router, and then I've got a wireless adapter in my computer, so I've got them linked to the same router. So if you've got a home router with wireless, it's easy to go ahead and just say, connect to my home connection on both, and you can go ahead and uplink it together. And I borrowed someone out of the audience. And what I'm going to do is, right here in the big open area of the phone, and I'm actually going to do the walk around scan, so that way y'all all can actually see the iPad. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to point it at him, and tell him to stay very still, scanning, and as you can see, whatever's in the green is actually capturing. The same thing on the actual screen, and if it gets out of sync, it'll tell me I've lost tracking, and I can actually go back and pick back up where I left off. Which is a really cool thing about the Kinect software on the desktop. And yes, this is the first time that I've actually buddied, but as a selfie with the iPad, other than with the other applications.
What was it distinguishing that one object? Is the nearest thing that does?
What it's actually doing is it's capturing all the depth data, and then it's actually live splicing it all together. So it's basically taking all the curvatures that are the same, and it's saying, okay, those match. Let's go ahead, and those must be the same thing. I've had two people on the turntable before, and when it rotates back around, when I get down to their feet, it sometimes doesn't know which person is which, because the feet look about the same.
On the screen, some of the areas on the border of red is that.
The red means it's not capturing. So if I'm too close, you'll notice it turns red. That means it's not capturing at all. The green actually means it's capturing. Anything in the blue in the very background and everything, it's basically saying it's too far away. I'm going to hit stop. And what it's actually doing is it's processing this file right now. So as you can see, the bar will actually go through, and it's taking all of these little captures, or I guess you could think of them as snapshots. It's actually taking depth data from every single little part where I'm turning. And what it's doing is it's actually stitching it all together into one model.
Looks like a depth data panorama, in some respects.
In a sense it is. It's actually taking, like when it goes up to the face and you see the nose part, it says, okay, I've got that generalized shape. The next snapshot, it says, okay, you actually have to overlap parts.
Right.
So it actually says, I've got this part, I've got this part, okay,
Does
those
it
match
those
together,
parts?
therefore we can stitch it together. If you move it too fast or off kilter, it'll actually say, oh, you've lost tracking, move back to the last position. The other thing about this Kinect software, and I'm not trying to plug them at all, but I do like their software the best of all the iPad scanners or Xbox Kinect scanners, because they save all the data in your hardware. So if you actually do have that little jerk or twist or something, or like I have done live at a Comic-Con, I have accidentally pulled the camera too far away when I was manually scanning and I unplugged it. That kills your connection. So as you can see, right here we have I'm actually going to skip over two parts. We actually have a, Thank you, Cohen, for reminding me I had a regular mouse.
If you lose tracking, will it be a visual guide on?
Yes, it'll have the last part that was there in the green. And basically it'll be like a little see-through-ish part, so you can basically go back and pick up where you left off. So yes, you can pick up where you left
So
off.
they accidentally move and kind of directly where to move your arm
To-
back or something.
Yes, it's like if I move my arm, if you're still scanning them and you wait a little bit, what it'll do is it'll pick up the tracking of their arm change. Well, if they turn their head, like for people that are turning on the turntable, dancers love to spot, so that way they're staring at a constant object when they move. Well, that's actually bad, especially when you're scanning that part of their body. So you're like, okay, now I've got 4 eyes, 2 noses, 2 mouths, and so forth. So as McCon was asking, can I zoom in? It's a lot easier. But the cool thing about it is it also takes color snapshots at the same time. So you can actually go through and colorize the model from the data on the hard drive. With the Kinect, it saves all the data, all the little snapshots into files on the hard drive. So later, if you don't have time to process it or export the model, it's all saved. You can go back through and say, oh, well, you know, I wanted that little chunk that I couldn't see earlier. I want to see if I can get a better version of it. You can actually change the bounding box. So you can see this is the bounding box that I had. So anything outside is clipped. Anything inside, it actually records. So what the camera doesn't actually see well, and I'll zoom in a little bit better on the arms. What the camera doesn't see well, I can go back through later, edit that in 3D software to smooth it up and so forth. So for people in costumes with capes, you don't see the back of their legs. What it doesn't see, it doesn't capture, period, with depth scanning. So literally, you have to go back through and recreate the backs of their legs. Or you have to take another scan with their, you know, them holding their cape up to where you can get the back of their legs, and then you can kind of mix the meshes together in a program like Mesh Mixer or something like that from Autodesk. But as you can see, this actually did not do a bad job of scanning, and I forget your name, I'm sorry. So basically, you can take that, and if you 3D print, you can actually make a little 3D print of the models. These were actually done with the same rig with the Xbox Kinect about a year ago. And these are actually on loan from RJ Foster. This is his wife. Him is his Captain Nemo in costume. Rebecca Grabowski with her Da Vinci wings. Me is a wrestling guy. James eating pizza. So you can actually see the detail and everything. James is back there, so you can actually compare him and compare me with the actual models. And I need to talk to you about what happened to his hand.
Is there more or less sensitivity with different colors of the image?
The colors and everything, like I said, with the proper lighting, if I would have had it, if I would have had another light here, it probably would have pulled out the colors a lot better while I'm scanning. See, as it's a little darker in this area, yes, lighting does matter, just like photography. So basically what we're doing is we're taking snapshots while we're actually taking the data, and then we're overlaying the snapshots onto the actual data. So you're basically, even though that took about 2.5 minutes to do, you can think of it as an old tin type. Those used to take a long time to process, you have to be still, and basically what we're doing is we're doing a 3D photograph, in a sense.
You mentioned it saves all of the snapshots.
It does save all the data.
The other nice thing about that is if the software gets upgraded and there's new features, you can actually run through the whole data.
So with the software and everything, and you've actually got the record where you're actually doing the live recording. And if you see all these little dots right here, and I'll zoom in, You can see all these dots right here. Those were actually when each capture was taken with the Kinect and the path that it was actually done. So each little dot is another, hey, I'm right here, I'm capturing it, and so forth.
So it's dots that you're moving the sensor, right?
Yes, that is the position of the sensor in relation to this model that it's finished. So therefore, you can see I moved it up, moved it down, because I was manually moving it. When you see it on the turntable, you'll just see a big old spiral version of it, because it'll be a fixed position and the person's turning, and then that'll be a little easier. But with the reconstruction, you can actually go back through, and if I want to go ahead and shrink the bounding box a little bit, I can go ahead and shrink the bounding box, move the bounding box and so forth around. And the tighter the bounding box that you get around the person, and I'm basically doing an estimation to begin with, the tighter the bounding box, the better the point cloud data will be. And you can go back through and reprocess it. And you can see this is me actually going through with the data that's captured the hard drive, and I'm reprocessing all of the data, like I would actually be there live doing it. That's what I love about this software. All the other software, they're like, okay, you've got your end model, that's it.
It looks like it's cutting off his feet now for some reason.
Depends on where I put the bounding box, and I did actually cut it off. So that was my fault with the bounding box. Like I said, whatever's outside the bounding box is clipped out. It's dead to the center on that. So if I actually went ahead and made the bounding box, say, from that wall to this wall right here, the data would look a lot less clear, but yet you would have all the other, like the podium would be in the way. You'd actually have the scans of the podium parts, the wall and stuff like that. It actually takes the depth data, but when you're live, you're not showing what's clipped out. Technically, that data is there, saved to the hard drive too. It's all there. But you can go back through and change the bounding box and say, hey, I want more data. I want that wall there, or I want that little extra object. Or better yet, hey, I had 2 people that were standing here. I scanned 2 people together. Only want one of them. I can go ahead and just process that one person by flipping it off or adding them both in the same section. But as you can see, by changing the bounding box, that actually, hopefully here in a second, it'll apply those textures again, and you'll see a little bit better resolution on the model itself. With the software, you actually do have Simplify, which takes the model and all the little triangles and everything that actually make the whole model, it'll shrink them down to where your file size is smaller. Go ahead and turn them into a video game character that requires a lot less memory, but yet you lose the data, lose the definitions of everything by different lighting perspectives. We had lights over on one side and lights not on the other while you stood still. It does actually, lighting does matter a lot. With turning around and around on the turntable, you pretty much will keep uniform lighting because it's going to be a fixed situation there.
Are there any trouble materials like shiny?
Shiny objects such as chrome, black actually absorbs all the infrared data. So anything that actually would change the infrared spectrum, you would have problems with. So black, it just says, okay, well, shiny black, like leather boots, shiny. Chrome is pretty bad on the depth scanners, but sometimes you can't actually get most of the data. So when I'm actually scanning, I'll look for the green, and whatever's hit the green part, I know that that part's going to come out. So if it's in the red, even though it's flickering, if I can go ahead and back through and say, okay, I've got the green in that spot, most of the rest of the time I don't see the green, I know that it's actually been captured. And then I look at the live model to see about how, and then later I can say, okay, it's already saved, reconstruct it all. But you can also go through and, like, for example, the top of the head, I didn't actually get a good job on that because I didn't lean up. And you can actually go with fill holes. You can move and crop. So if you wanted just a bust, you could actually move the ground plane or move him to where you can have just a bust and then cut it off. There's a few tools that are already built into it, like, for example, removing colors and so forth. But you can actually go ahead and say, process. You can say, I want to do an external edit and I want to view where the file is located on my hard drive, because some people are like, I don't know where to save it to. You can hit View Mesh and Explore, and what it'll do is it's saving a temporary copy of the file, and then it'll go back through. Normally it'll save a temporary copy. It'll go ahead and save a version of it, so you can go ahead and edit that version, and then you can reload your edited version back into it, and then reapply the colors that you had captured, and you don't have to go ahead and edit colors as much when you go ahead and share your model. And this is a good example of load, so I can actually do the load feature. This is actually loading the last model or one that I've already done.
How large are these files here?
2.5 minutes on, it actually depends on your graphics processor and how long you scan. Roughly 2.5 minutes. I have a video card that's got 3 gigs of RAM. It captures a buttload of data because I'm capturing 30 frames a second. So it's actually taking 30 snapshots per second and saving to the hard drive. That actually, the faster the GPU, the faster the capture, the more hard drive space you want. I would say probably about 800 meg or 850 meg, depending on about 2.5 to 3 minute capture. So it can get pretty beefy if you scan a lot. So here's actually me reloading that model, and excuse me for the technical difficulties, but that happens. But you've also got where you can hit share, and you can export the model as a PLY, an OBJ, an STL, or a WRL model. So you can basically export it into 3D editing software, or software that you can actually 3D print directly if you wanted to do the printing yourself. And seeing as we're all in the 3D printing group, that's something that we would look at. The different models are, you got the PLY models that actually captures and writes the texturing into the file itself as a vector mapped images. So it actually writes it into each of the triangles. OBJ, you're going to have a PNG file, which is like just a photo of all the texturing and everything, and it's going to apply it and wrap it around the model. So you can actually have the OBJ and MTL, which says this is where parts of the photo actually goes to apply, like the face and the shirt and so forth. STL is usually going to be just a single color, hey, I'm ready to print a stereolithic one. And then WRL is usually mostly applied for web pages, where you can actually show a 360 turnaround and put a little wrapper to go ahead and show it.
Would an app like that allow you to manipulate the position, or would it be like a film of it being manipulated?
What do you mean?
It's like going on the web page. Like, okay, can you post this on Facebook?
Absolutely.
Like a YouTube video, or?
I actually have
move
a
it?
few of them that's on here on Sketchpad. It's a website that you can upload your 3D model, and then you can take that link and post it on Facebook, and you can actually rotate your model and everything and all like that. I do have a few Sketchpad models as well uploaded.
Oh,
And I'll
where's the building too?
you can actually save a Adobe PDFs. You can actually, with the last 6 or 7 versions of Adobe Creator, you can actually save a 3D model in a PDF and rotate it. Yes, Adobe's done. That's why PDFs are large. They do a lot more than what people just think of scanning a document and being there. You can actually put 3D data in there, rotate it, manipulate it, move it around, zoom in and out, and so forth.
Can you do that with us?
You can. This software actually, they have a version for Mac, PC, and Linux. And like Alex was saying earlier, the Pro version is about $150 by itself. It does include a commercial license. The trial version will let you save a model, won't let you save all the capture data so you can go back through and reconstruct. And it'll always save a maximum of 5,000 polygons. This model right here, as you can see, is actually 175,540 polygons. So it's probably about a 60 or 70 meg file. If you just save it in the hard drive. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to redo this with a different connection.
How big of a contract you bring to?
I have done a year's worth of scanning with about 600 plus scans in this 480 gig hard drive. And I haven't filled it up yet.
So with the surrounding rectangle, or whatever you would call it,
Bounding box.
bounding box, is that something you initially set?
Yes, and I'm going to show that to you as I reload
So
this.
it kind of knows what depth to look at?
Yes. Make sure that my Kinect is actually loaded. The Kinect, when you use an Xbox Kinect, and you have to use a separate power adapter, which to be able to connect to USB. What I've done with this Kinect is I've got an Xbox 360 Kinect. I've got the little USB breakout connection to plugged in and plugged in as an adapter. What that allows me to do is, with the Microsoft Software Development Kit, or SDK, it allows me to go ahead and load all the drivers where I can go ahead and use this inside this Kinect as well. So basically I have another way of scanning something. And what I'm going to do is load Kinect one more time. And yes, I'm actually using the newest beta version, by the way. So I'm testing out with the newest of the new. So basically I'm going to set a 1.3 meter bounding box. There's actually different ways that you can do it. You can do body, object, room, or half room. So if I want to do a whole room, I can go ahead and say the maximum this will do is a 12 by 12 by 12 meter room. So literally I can scan 36 feet in one cube at the max. So I can disconnect this and walk around this room and probably scan this room. Would it take a while? Yes. Would it take a lot of hard drive space? At 30 frames a second? Yes. Because I have to go in and around objects to be able to do it. So I'm going to go back to body, and I kind of found out that 1.3 meters is a little over what a human normally is. And then I'm also hitting height ×2 to, instead of a square, I'm actually doing a rectangle. So this is actually with the Xbox Kinect that I've got mounted. And I have this mounted on a maker slot rail. It was, this aluminum structure was actually a plans that were posted on the web by Fred Call. He's actually does 3D scanning at Coney Island. So the turntable that I've got is a variation of his as well, because I actually wanted to be able to scan my dad, mom, brother, sister, and make a 3D photo of them, put them up on like the fireplace mantle or something like that, and have 3D photos, because of my grandparents only have one photo, and that's it. If I was to lose that photo somewhere, I may forget how they look. And I figured this was a way of, may take long as a 10 tide, but it's basically a 360 variation of them. Yes, you can take the same models and throw them into a video game and rig them and make them into your own Unity character, and then shoot 'em up games with yourself in the game if you want to. But I've actually got this on a clothesline pulley, so that way I can go ahead and pull it up and go down while they're turning, go ahead and capture the whole person. So the next volunteer, whomever, just be very careful stepping up. the turntable, basically, I help them up, they get on their little ride, 2.5 minutes, they're done, and then I get it small.
Yeah.
With this one, I can actually get into the parts that this one by default doesn't see.
Yeah.
And I have to add those parts back in manually.
Right.
This one, if I actually capture the data from those parts, I don't have to manually do it.
Okay.
So basically you got 6, one hand, half dozen the other. You're like, well, do I want to go ahead and do all the maneuvering or do I not? The downfall to the iPad is it takes snapshots every so often. It does not take snapshots with every single depth capture like the desktop does. That's because my graphics card is a lot better than the graphics card in the iPad. There's also other options on the iPad other than Kinect software. I've got a program right here from a rival company called knox3dp, and actually did a scan of Paul the other day here at the Makerspace. And as you can see, the resolution and texturing is a lot better.
Yeah, it looks a lot better.
It's using the highest resolution possible from the camera. So if those go back through.
You did that with your iPad.
Yes, that was the iPad on. So if I go back through and scan person and tag your it. So what I'm going to do is, you can see right here, it's actually trying to find the space to go ahead and set the bounding box up, and I'm hitting start. And what you're seeing right now is it's capturing the data. And I'm going to do a semi walk around, that way I can see.
You get beyond the depth of the bounding box.
See where it turned red? That's not natural. So this actually sets up its own bounding box by saying, okay, that's a person's head. Let's go ahead and do a bounding box that they select, and I have no control over it. But the thing about it is, when you upload it, so you get a low resolution by the iPad itself. When you have the internet connection, you can actually upload it to their servers. They'll process it and send it back to you in high resolution. And I'm just going to hit done on this for right now and finish anyway, so you can move. The downfall to the knox3dp is twofold. Number one, if you want to be able to download the models, say you deleted it off your iPad, you've already got a copy uploaded, because when you go ahead and do the high resolution upload, it's going to automatically save a copy on their side. If you want to download it, you've got a one-time setup fee of $1,000. And then it's $5 for each download. That's their commercial use. Kinect, your commercial use is, I paid $150 for it. I get 1 year's worth of maintenance, help, you can call them whatever, no problems whatsoever. You have full commercial use over it for that $150 when you buy the software. That's it. You can download all the updates that you want, even out of the maintenance range. So you can get all the updates that you want, get all the new tidbits and features because you already have the license and it will apply toward your new version of it. So the preview model, as you can see, just the low resolution, no, I didn't get the top of your head, I'm sorry, is not too bad. But you can see, no, I'm not updating my model. But you can see how the nose is not proper. But if I uploaded it and downloaded it, which takes about 15 minutes, it'll actually pull that higher resolution, non-low polygon texturing into it, and it'll reapply the texture to it.
The data.
So the data has been captured. You can't get to any of that data at all to do like an offline reconstruction or anything. Basically, all you get is low resolution. You don't upload it to them and receive the high resolution, where you get the high resolution, and all you can do. Yes, I know preview models are not insurable. Let's pull this one back off. When you hit the upload, you can actually send POI, an OBJ, or WRL straight to your email. So basically, it zips it up, sends it to yourself, or you can actually share it to a sketch file. On here, I actually have, since somebody had asked a while ago, how do you get it on the web? I've got all of those sketch files.
We pulled up on the
Camera?
yeah.
I'm
Or something like that, right?
So there's actually James that was scanned, and you can actually see the texture on the pizza as well. I know, that's crazy, isn't it? But I know you're getting a kick out of that, but you can see all the wrinkles and everything in this pants. You know, his wallet in his back pocket.
Where's the background coming from?
That was actually stock background from SketchUp. And then I basically brought for show here another 3D scanner that I've got, it's the desktop one. And it does not use a depth scanner. It actually uses laser lines to project and then webcam to go ahead and whatever it deforms, it actually takes that into account for how the depth is from the actual camera. And I actually built that last night here at Makerspace. So I unboxed it and built it last night. I did not print the parts. But this is all open source. It's actually a Cyclops camera or 3D scanner, CICLOPS, not with a Y. And it's all open source where you can go ahead and modify the software, you can download the parts, print them yourself. All you need is just the 8mm threaded rods and keep a 17 motor Arduino, and then they actually sell a shield. And there's actually the parts that I had to put together last night. Quite a bit when you think of it. But it takes about an hour to assemble with just photos. And then the software is a free download from their website that actually works in conjunction with it all. So the software is a free download. You can just download the newest version. If you want to modify the actual, instead of using threaded rods for the distance, you could put aluminum extrusions, or you could print the actual threaded rod parts from that distance and use that instead. You don't actually have to use their full design. You can modify it as much as you want. But that is actually an open source, and they were a Kickstarter as well.
Yeah, Kickstarter, yeah, open source design. So you can buy a kit from them online to build it, but obviously all the parts are meant to get off the shelf. So we can,
For example, the Arduino's, Arduino's about 20 bucks now. The little laser line cameras, I've actually bought them from China for $5 a pop. So basically, if you build it yourself and wanted to 3D print it yourself, you're looking at about $100 worth of materials and parts just to build it yourself. Otherwise, you can pay 159 euros, or in my case, $120 with $30 overnight shipping. Yeah, I paid the Amazon overnight shipping cost because I wanted to build it here at the makerspace on the open night area. Yes, sir.
What's the quality difference between something like that and a
I just built it last night and tried it. The quality is okay-ish. And the only reason I can say that is it was 10 o'clock when I stopped working on it. So I actually had to do the calibration and all like that. And I was like, okay, it's time for me just to go to bed. I need to go home. So I really haven't seen the model exported yet. I've seen it on the screen and it looks pretty realistic to the actual part. So it does a good job. The thing about the laser line and the webcam and stuff like that is it is okay for small parts. It's not really a good way of doing large things. With the Occipital, I would say that way. With the depth scanners, whether it be the Xbox or whether it be the iPad and all like that, they're not meant for CNC milling purposes. So basically, they're going to be an approximation. They're not going to be an exact, because I have to be like right here to that scanner. I have to be like 400 millimeters at the bare minimum distance. It will not scan closer to that, and then the further back I get, it's still going to capture the data and things like that. But organic people, you're not going to notice that as much. But when you're actually wanting to scan, say, one of these models, you're not going to be able to do it at all. It will not do it. Because I've had problems at Comic-Cons with samurai swords. They're real thin and reflective. The reflective, it does not like. The real thin, it does not like. So Deadpool is okay with the swords that are on the back because you've got part of the back and then the hilt. The hilt's okay. People with capes that actually flow when they're underneath an air conditioning vent, the geometry changes. Not so good. I've had that happen before too.
what's the software?
Oh, the horse software. Yeah, it looks like it actually does a pretty good job, but I'm still testing it out and trying it because I just literally had it shipped overnight. I bought it Monday, received it Tuesday, put it together Tuesday night. I was like, okay, I've calibrated it and tested it a little bit. It did a decent job, and I was like, okay, I'm going to bed, and I haven't touched it since then because I left it here. Comments?
24 hours ago.
Yes.
Okay. So if I win that thing tonight, what is the learning curve for the average doofus to actually use that, scan in a torso and put it up on Facebook?
as you saw with me scanning,
Yeah.
it's really not hard to scan with one. Literally, pretty much will. It does actually have software other than those two that I showed. And I did say I was going to go ahead with the room scanning, so still have to have WASP on. The Structure Auto software has other software as well. And I'm going to click on room capture. And hopefully, when I move this around, people will see, but when I hit scan, it's actually capturing textures and so forth. Of what it is. And as you can see, it actually captured live. So that was actually what I was just turn around and do. The top view, you can actually see when I turned around, here's the top view of all that I scanned. Anything that's not seen on the backside is not scanned. They'll try to fill as much of the holes as possible.
So it's just like 5 hours or 25 hours to learn how to use it?
I was just tinkering with it to begin with. So probably about 30 minutes to learn about every feature.
Seriously?
Editing models is going to take the longest. Scanning is going to take the quickest part. As far as capturing, and just say, for example, scan, and so if you can see right there, even inside that bounding box will be captured. So capturing can be pretty quick.
You're going to repair that using mesh?
You can repair it in any program that you want to use, whether it be Autodesk, whether it be Mesh Mixer, whether it be Mesh Lab, I mean, whatever type of program software that you want to, and you can say that it didn't capture the back.
Learning curve on the editing software.
The editing is the actual, I can have one.
Okay.
Yeah.
For quality repair, that might take.
Usually when I scan a person on the turntable, it's actually about just to make sure that everything is water seal tight, because to print, you have to have a perfectly water seal tight model. If there's any gaps such as that, you have to fix it to where that's just going to print the shell. Model, like for example, when I scanned the gentleman there and I forgot to scan the top of the head, that's going to leave a hole in the model and either fill a cap, have a hole cavity in the whole model, and then you've got to repair that. So you can either fix the top of the head in one of those programs, and then you can go ahead and upload it to Shapeways and so forth. Shapeways.com, I'm not plugging them. They are actually a really good company on printing models. As you can see, they do some pretty good work on models. They do have tolerances, and if it's out of those tolerances, they won't print it. They'll say, hey, this arm's too brittle. It'll break when we're manufacturing it. No, we're not going to lose the cost of it because you're not going to pay for the model that's shipped to you broke.
Does Kinect have the easy options where you just make it close the gaps through?
It has several options for editing. Built into it. Thank you for asking all these questions, James. In the processing, you actually have an option for watertight, and it'll try and do a watertight model as much as it can. It's not always perfect. Then again, when you scan, your scanning may not always be perfect either. But it does have a different variancing on making it watertight. So even if it has a hole in the top of the head, it doesn't know that's the top of the person's head. So it may fill the whole inside of the bottle and leave of the body and leave a gap there at the top. That's when you go to an external program and you fill in the top of the head where it's flat, color it, and so forth.
So if you do a really thorough job scanning, get away with just using
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Those are-
But that's why they have the external edit, is to export a temporary version of it so you can edit. And then since it's set exactly the same parameters as the scan, it'll actually go back through and you can do the colorize and it applies it to as much as it can. It actually does a really good job on fixing that. And then if you need to go ahead and edit the texturing, you can still fix all that. So there's actually fill holes, different types of ways of filling holes. The move and crop is to actually move the boundary plane to actually do a flat plane cut. Remove parts removes all the little small artifacts if you have any, like people walking through the stands and all like that. And I've had several people do that before. It happens. It's not the best. But when you're stuck in a Comic-Con, you've got a 10-foot by 10-foot booth, and you've got other people around it. Sometimes little kids walk behind and they walk into the scan, and you're either restarting or being with the reconstruct to take pieces and parts. You do have to colorize, remove. It's basically, say for example, you did the fill, and that part was not model to begin with. You can recolorize it, and it'll try and take the surrounding colors and fill that hole. So it basically does what it calls an in paint, and it takes the surrounding blends and blurs it, kind of like the so it actually tries to help you out. Sometimes you get just a big blur on the top where that, depending on how much of a spot it's trying to fill as an in paint. But it tries to do the best that it can.
The Shapeway printing, you mentioned lost wax,
They do the materials. So however big you want the model, it's how much it's going to be.
Are they solid or are they hollow?
It depends on if you make them solid or if you want to make them hollow. These are actually solid.
They're solid.
Because I wanted two things. Two reasons why they're solid. Number one, I didn't want to put a hole in the bottom of, say, a hole in the bottom of both feet for all that extra sandstone to run out. Number two, if it was hollow right there, or if it's small and brittle, then you don't have the walls close together and things like that might happen a lot easier.
Well, if you're testing in metals, there's a substantial cost difference.
Actually, most of the metals that you actually purchase through Shapeways,
Yeah.
they contract out. Actually have companies that actually take the model and do it.
What about those model metals?
Those you actually, when you upload the model, you'll want to go ahead and do them either hollow, like an inside shell, or an outside shell.
You have to put a,
I upload mine where they're complete solid. That way, I don't have to worry about, is this inside, outside, too thin in this spot, too thick in this spot. What's really cool about Shapeways, and I know that's just the company I'm talking about tonight, is they have tools on their website when you upload the model. Green is good, red is bad. So they actually do have a heat map that tells you what part of the model will be good at this small size, or if you blow it up, they actually have a resize tool, and it'll change all the process and everything when you resize it, and you can actually see the different heat map for the bigger object and stuff like that. So you can actually just upload it to Shapeways, even if you don't buy it through Shapeways, and you can figure out, will my 3D printer at home actually print at this resolution? It's good for that. It does take about 5 to 10 minutes every time you upload it for that heat map to update.
Is there limitations to the pose? You talked about swords, you talked about cakes. So those thin materials, I mean, can you broad gestures, have things up?
I actually have done quite a bit. I mean, for example, you've got a gesture that is of a pizza.
Yeah.
That's not a problem there. As far as, I've actually done a scan of a lady it was actually the voice of Jim and the Holograms, made this cartoon, Jim and the Holograms. And she had a knife in her hand, she's doing the whole, singing pose, her hands up there, and I literally could see her pinky and everything on that. If y'all want to look at these, like I said, these are actually on loan from RJ Foster. You can actually look at the belt loop. If you look down through this one, her belt loop, you can actually see right through the belt loop. This is probably the best one that I've seen. This is he did not retouch this one.
The boxes come from Shapeways?
Yeah, those were actually laser cut here. Laser cutter. He did actually repaint his because he didn't like the colors. Sometimes the colors do get off on those. And then he basically touched up this one a little bit. So if y'all actually deal with this one, be very careful because this box will come up, it will come off apart. Let's see. This one right here cost me $38. Of course, I'm bigger than James, and I think his was around 28 or something. So it all depends. Like I said, it's volumetric. And since I make them solid, you can actually feel the weight of the model there. There's a little bit of weight in that little small model.
Now, is that colored that way?
When they print, what they do is they actually have a powder that they print in. It actually draws a layer of the powder. It centers it, which basically is a bonding element to it, and then it inkjets it at the same time. So it goes back to an inkjet's the exact same deal. So it actually has a layer in the powder, and then it breaks another layer across, does the same thing until it goes all the way up and the model's done. Then what they do is they pull out the model from that big block of powder. Then they go ahead and air compress, blow it out to where the model's just by itself. They bake it because all the ink and everything that gets into it does make it solid. So they go ahead and basically dry it out. And then I believe the coating on these, that you can feel a little bit of grit, is actually the same stuff as super glue. Basically did a bath and then they put it on a little pins to air dry it.
Do they still only offer sandstone for another color?
They've got a gloss one now. They'll do it, if you want it done in PLA, if you want it done in ABS, if you want it done in brass, aluminum. I think the aluminum one of my dad's was like $1,400, so it's actually more than brass, or bronze, sorry, more than bronze. They'll do brass. They'll basically do a lot of the metals because a lot of people will send their jewelry designs to them. They're like, oh, I like this ring design, I want this actually printed, and then it's actually that size and everything. I think he's actually pulling up some of the materials that they do. So they'll do resin cast prints to where you can actually get a see-through model. Sterling silver is a popular one. They'll do it in gold. Platinum's really high, by the way.
They can print platinum?
Yes. Yes. Basically, the platinum is a powder. Basically, it's a powder of platinum. And then what they do is they laser center it together. Then they take it and put it in a kiln and fire it.
Okay.
So it's bound together. Then they go ahead and polish it.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that help?
Smooth surface.
Yeah. That's how they get the smooth surfaces, by polishing the plastics or the metals. And yes, they do porcelain as well.
Did this print the gold color?
He hand painted that.
Hand painted?
RJ went through and hand painted it. This is the only one that has not been touched at all, color-wise.
How did you scan his head inside the helmet?
Okay. He had a piece of acrylic glass in front of him. This is infrared. Infrared goes straight through glass or clear objects. That is the other thing that is hard to scan, is if you have, say for example, if I was to go ahead and 3D scan one of these, why not? Let's do it. As you can see, it's actually seeing right through the acrylic because the infrared map is actually throwing it right through. So, and as you can see, small objects are not good to scan with that scanner because it gets an about approximation for small objects, but for bigger objects, it can actually stitch together easily.
What's it do with glasses?
Sir?
What's it do with glasses?
Glasses, it'll put the texture of the glasses on the model,
Yeah.
but it'll go right through the lenses.
So you want to put a lens. So it's-
I had a guy that was dressed as one of the actual music singers of Daft Punk. And they wear helmets that have like a dark see-through acrylic. Stormtroopers, for example, the little visors. Even though that is black plastic, it'll go right through that black plastic. So basically, I have to go back through and then I have to reshape that plastic back by pulling out the. I use Mesh Mixer because it can actually do like a sculpting program. So I can pull it out, make it flat, and basically flatten it back like it's supposed to be. And then I go back through and reload it inside the Kinect, and it puts that texture back over on the outside of that edited part, and then it looks like it's done that on purpose. But yeah, Stormtroopers, you actually see their nose bridge and their eyes and everything through the helmet. It's kind of cool when you do it, but it's also kind of annoying too. Any other questions, comments? Yes, sir.
What size of the scanning can you
What do you mean, what size of scan?
do? What they can scan?
The biggest person that I have scanned, well, technically, if you want to scan a room, with the room scanning, you can do a 12 by 12 by 12 meter cube. Oh, that's actually cylinder wise. They probably do about that tall, but the circle of it is it rotating. So this one right here, you can do big objects on it all, but that's what you get for $100.
And printing is just a limitation of your.
Time and money,
Yeah, time and money. Gotcha.
just like any other manufacturing process. Any other questions, comments?
At one point, I saw you listed with, 2 different Xbox Kinects at the same time.
Yes.
Have you been in progress with that?
No, I have not. They do actually make software packages that will scan with multiple scanners, but you're looking at about $500 or 500 euros for the software package.
Does Kinect do any of that?
Kinect actually is not going to do multiple scanners. They are not going to support the Xbox One either, which I actually have one. And I do have the USB breakout box here. But with either the 360 or the Xbox One, there is a program built into Windows 10 called 3D Builder. You can actually scan, actually on Windows 10, they give you another application that you have to download from the store called 3D Scan that plugs into 3D Builder that you can actually scan with the Xbox One or the 360 and actually do a scan from either one inside 3D Builder, which is Microsoft app. And then you can save that model and then print it or edit it.
I stopped listening at Microsoft.
But yeah, they actually do have it built into Windows 10. It's a free app though.
Cool. Well, let's do a round of applause for Tobby for his awesome. You guys have any further questions after? So, now I'm going to choose a random number, again, 1 through 15. So,
Yeah.
let's see who wins.
Okay, bye.
You guys ready? I get a drum roll. We'll drum. Joe, you win. So I have a license needed as well for the software. But yeah,
You have a what now?
I have the license for the software as well.
Which
So
is
I'll
this software right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Great.
yeah.
No.
Want to stand up for the picture?